Right here in my hands, we probably have, I don't want to say one of the most controversial cameras of all time, but we have a heavily discussed camera in the Fuji X-Pro 3, mainly because of the way the design is, what they chose, and the interesting flip-down screen that's, the screen is here when you flip it down. So it's a bit different. So I really just want to kind of give a quick review on this. I'm not going to dive down in the photos, examples, and everything. The tech specs, a lot of that stuff's already out there. A lot of people rushed these out when I got this. I got the Dura Black version when it came out on like December 3rd, 2019. So I've had this camera for months now, and I just want to share my thoughts on a quick couple pros and cons. I want to go by body and design and then functionality, functions of the camera. So let's just talk a little bit about my experience with the body and design. Let's dive into it. So things I definitely liked about this in the body is that it still feels like the X-Pro 2. And to me, and I've said this a lot of times on this channel, the Fuji X-Pro 2 next to the D700 is probably one of the best cameras of all time, especially for street photographers and having the hybrid viewfinder and everything. It just checked a lot of boxes that I'm very much into. It's a very ergonomical camera. I like the way it feels. I like the weight of it, or lack of weight for that matter. And I don't need it to be full frame. It being crop sensor is still great in my opinion. The EVF, if you use it, I'm mainly just an LCD screen shooter, but the EVF in this X-Pro 3 is top notch. It's very fast, it's accurate, it's good, it's bright, which is very, very important. It has that hybrid viewfinder, so that way you can go between both. You can just switch by using the switch up front, and use it whichever way you want, electronic or optically, so whatever you like. Dual SD cards, absolutely a must for me for my main camera, but once again, it's not end all be all, but I like to go on the street, shoot back up to one, you're good to go. And the body up top, the top plate right here still retains a lot of what the X-Pro 2 had as well. You still have your shutter dial, and then to change the ISO, you lift up the shutter dial and turn it, and you're good from there. And you still have a function button right there, right by your shutter, so that way you can change that to like be movie mode if you want to switch and do some 4K video, which I'll cover in a second. And you can really go from that on that front there. Now this camera also came in two different durabilities. One is just pure black, durable, pretty good, but then they had this Dura finish on it, which is very durable, scratch resistant, etc. So you can, knock around the camera and it'd be fine. And I wound up picking the Dura Black, which is kind of like a graphite, and then they have a Dura Silver. So it's very durable, very tough. I mean, you can literally try and scratch it and it won't budge and chip the paint at all. And it's just supposed to be durable, and it's actually a bit lighter than you'd expect as well. But some stuff that still throws me back from fully enjoying the camera is the way that it's built. I do not like the back screen here. First of all, I don't like the back screen as it is right here, and I'll cover a big flaw on that. But even the back screen right here is a little, it's a little clunky. It's not super smooth. If that was, maybe it's a bit better. But it just doesn't make sense to have it flip down like that. I think it's a bad choice. I don't agree that this should have been an X Pro line camera. Maybe that should have been the next XH2 or whatever, but they really kind of took away from their X Pro line in my opinion. But, from the explanations I hear, I get who they're trying to target. I just think they took a lot of people away from really what they were looking for on that. So the screen, I'm not a fan of, but that's probably been one of the most controversial points. So like I was mentioning, this back screen here, if you have a battery in it, and I don't have it in there, actually has battery drain. So if you have a battery in there, that back screen will stay on or very, very dimly lit and draw power, because you can have a fully charged in battery here, leave it in there for a day or two, take it out, and you will lose charge on it pretty significantly if you leave it in there, because, and I don't want to hear people say, I've tested it out, it draws battery, and that is not an attractive feature for something like this, and just not a good design. Another thing that they missed and they removed is the back D-pad. I know you can swipe on the screen to get the custom features that you want and everything, but having to flip down the screen and do that BS is not the way it should be. Having a D-pad was a smart choice, but they wanted to clean up the look, I guess, and that's essentially what they got. The last really kind of negative thing is actually the Dura finish. I'm a bit OCD. I don't like dirt and stuff and grime on the camera. I even made a video talking about how to properly clean the camera. I'll link that. But it is a dirt and grime magnet because that's the way the Dura finish is. So you barely touch the camera, you will leave the biggest fingerprint ever. And you can have the cleanest hands in the world, but somehow there will be dirt and grime on these cameras. So the Dura Black and Silver are, it's not an issue, but they are like that. If you get the regular black one, you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about that. But I'm not saying that's really an issue, but it's just something to keep in mind, and it grosses me out. And it's just something that I just like to have my gear clean, ready to go at all times. And just something like that, you're good to go. Sometimes you can wipe it down with a microfiber cloth, but a lot of the times you need to go with a household cleaner to actually remove it and to get it looking brand new, which I've touched this camera already. You're not gonna be able to see it, but there's a big fingerprint there already, and I've barely done anything with it. So functionality, actually using the camera, let's talk about that. And obviously, it behaves like an X-Pro camera. The autofocus, absolutely amazing. The low light autofocusing going in with the EVs, I mean, second to none. Dynamic range, absolutely there. It's still a Fuji camera in heart, even though the body is a bit depressing to an extent. And the color, the color you get straight out of the camera, even just straight out of a JPEG. I mean, it's industry leading for that matter. Sony's right up there as well, but it's still great. And there's really not a ton else to say. It's just, it's still a great shooting camera, and it does have 4K video, but with the flip screen being the way that it is, it's still a bit useless, especially it being flipped down. So if you're more into the video, and I've always said this about the X-Pro line, look into the XT line, the XT3, the new XT4. Hopefully it comes out, all depending on all this virus stuff that's going around, and whenever that's going to actually come out. But the XT4 has the flip out screen and has a lot of the video features that you'd want compared to what this might be omitting. So that being said, video, go XT line, stills, the X-Pro line, but depending on what body you want. In regards to actually using the camera, there really are no negatives. The only thing I dislike is that Fuji did not and will not include an actual wall charger with this camera. If you're paying almost $2,000 for a camera, it better come with a dang wall charger. I think it's very stingy and rude of a company to do that. I am not plugging my camera into a USB outlet or USB port just to charge. I think that is absurd in 2020. And I think it's cheap and very stingy. And I think it's a bit insulting that you then make the customer go spend $40 to $60 extra just to be able to charge your stupid camera. That's rude. That's got to stop, and that's got to be changed. Or if anything, you got to drop the price $50-$60 to compensate for that. So all in all, functionality, it is still an X-Pro camera. The X-Pro 3 shoots great, looks great, is very, very fast. It just comes down to if you like the body or not. If not, there is nothing wrong with getting like an X-Pro 2. But if you don't mind a more cleaner, unique look that this X-Pro 3 has with the screen, it's definitely a very, very good option. Like I was saying, the Dura versions, black and silver, are about $2,000, and for $1,800 you get the black version. That cleans up a little bit better, but if you're a bit of an OCD freak, it may bother you, go with the black version. But if you want a more unique color, like I do, you suck it up and deal with it, you really kind of go from there. But I will say, just the body alone doesn't get me excited about this camera. Like I've said, I've been a huge X-Pro 2 fan for a while, ever since I've owned it for a couple years. And to then get this, because I really wanted to immerse in this, that's why I sold the X-Pro 2. It just makes me question, do I want to go back to that? Because I like that experience a little bit better. But I will say the autofocus is definitely worth it though. There is a bit of a difference there. But then between going back to maybe like a graphite Fuji X-Pro 2, the Fuji X100V looks pretty cool. It has the proper flip down screen that it should have for the flip out. And it has a lot of what the X-Pro 3 has in it as well, plus some video features. So maybe I'm tempted to look into that and maybe switch out of that. But we're talking a little bit of two extremes there. But I will say my like of the line could go down just a little bit. But the actual camera functionality tops and further proves why the X-Pro line was first created and is fantastic for street photography. Let me know your thoughts down below. I know some people are going to disagree about the design and you're complaining about the Dura finish, but That's why this is my review, sharing my thoughts from someone who's actually been using the camera for a couple months now, since the Dura Black came out on December 3rd. I bought it at the store, came back, and I'm sharing all my thoughts that I've had throughout the past couple months with you right now. So, any questions or comments, leave those down below. But those are my thoughts. What are yours?